exactly what is the program, and any academic assessments that might be tailored to each. As I mentioned too, professional learning, we want to support and current any programming as well as any assessments that we might adopt. Against that program, SMR, the assessment program materials and professional learning. That's where our people. Last initiative, there's no cost. It's just reminding us that class size. Back in 21, 22, our kindergarten class size skyrocketed for whatever reason. And we want to have support an additional kindergarten teacher. That kindergarten teacher this year has been moved to first grade. And we're just looking for that first grade teacher to continue on to second grade. Class size again. Next year, and right now our T2 is at approximately 19 to 20.
Doesn't look like it. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
You had 3 more minutes, Rachel.
I know, I was trying, but I
Thank you.
So I'm going to be addressing 7 and 9. Comments on the first page. We'll see that all increase for a class size is 0.4%. Next year. This is the highest. Really kind of maintain and sustain. So you can see on page 8. I'll notice a little bit more on that. You'll see the doors increase the library books. This is not a significant increase. We're trying to return to previous levels of funding. Purchasing new materials and outdated more materials because we've had budget through that in the past. Making our collection of 5%. And we're looking to support our growing fifth grade dance. Our dance program from some of the 3 years ago, 50 to 60 students past 2 years of sustaining. So in order to provide the students the cost more, those are very costly instruments. We're just looking to provide access to those instruments for the kids who play those, which will provide more balance ensemble. So those are areas of increase. See for yourself if there are areas of increase. Typical stipends. We'll talk about that on the next page. We've been over budgeting instructional equipment in the past 2 years. Collection of textbooks. That basically we will into the whole science communication. So any questions on specific line items before we go to initiatives? Jump into initiatives. Class size level. Projected in the future. I also just want to point out the grade is it's an exponential year. Kids are coming from K2 from the big environment to where we learn environment. It's the first year of the assessment. So we're looking to help students grow. language arts, science reading, it's all one and the same. Marking on K-5, K-8, programs. Also, meet state requirements. We know, based upon our data, that there's some very specific things that others, pretty job in the other areas of the not necessarily specific skills that we influence clients like they are at K-12. So we want to find the right balance program when it comes to and whatever we do that as far as creating units of study, improving aligning, and providing stuff, doing that stuff. And the last thing I was put in there, it's on a new initiative by NEDs, is maintaining our support services. Our pre-interventionists and after interventionists, our special ed staff, touch a lot of kids throughout the school year. And we are seeing desired results when it comes to the growth of all schools. Lower end of the school, higher end. We just want to make sure the top school, a lot of kids, all schools. I'm just kind of how those things are attained.
Thank you.
Everyone, I'm Saliola from the middle school. I don't even know if I'm going to make 10 minutes because, to be perfectly honest with you, my budget is, if you look on page 10, my budget is down 32.5% in operation. So it's a very lean machine budget here. And honestly, I come to you really with 3 requests, and it's in the area of a librarian, it's a stipend, and 2 stipend requests. There are 3 line items on page 11 where there are decreases, and it's the same thing that happened in all the other schools. PD moved to curriculum, textbooks moved to curriculum. We're actually in a good place with textbooks in our school, so we're not asking for many. We have the textbooks that we need. And then in terms of instructional equipment, we got creative with what we had, and the band instruments, we're looking to see if we can maybe work on something in a 3-year plan for our band instruments. When it comes to what the increases are, they coincide with our major initiatives. So you'll see that there's a request to add a librarian. That's our first initiative. We're looking, we have a beautiful library. Research shows that libraries should be the literary hub of your school. Reading achievement increases with a librarian. So that's really where all of my effort is going, is to add that increase. The second and third are stipend requests. We were able to get our new schedule approved at the last board meeting. Yay. And with that, we are looking to add team leaders to our schools. So there's that stipend request that's been added. It will add structure, it'll add accountability, and it'll add a leadership team level to our school. And then the other stipend we're asking is to really add some structure to our drama department, much like the high school did as well. The stipends would be put in the operational budget for the technical director, the choreographer, the producer, all of which has not been as allocated structurally like it could be in the budget. And then one added addition is our budget neutral schedule. And that's where the PD would come in, where we would do some work around implementing our new schedule. So that's really what I have for you from the middle school. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question. Uh, Excuse me, with the restructuring of the high school department chairs, was there I'm just trying to remember, is there a department, were the department chairs 612, or do you have department chairs? at the
So
middle
we were given content area leaders, and I'd like to shift that to team leaders.
So that's what I'm saying. So you have some of those leaders. So you're renaming them and kind of reassigning them.
Right, and
But
asking for,
you'll need 6 team lead. Would you have a leader for each team?
so we'd need 6 + 1 for unified arts.
Okay.
And
you have, so
currently-
you would absorb,
3, we have 3 content leaders, so we'd absorb that and then ask for the 4 other stipends.
okay. And then, but we would also still, because, our initiative in doing that is that we want to get the 612 continuum. So by taking that out, we wouldn't be jeopardizing that. They would still have some kind of connection to the department chairs.
Right,
So that we can get that 612 continuum.
and team leaders could facilitate that as
Right.
well. Yep.
So good, thank you.
Mhm.
Was that supposed to work?
Yep.
Can I
Thank
ask you, was that supposed to work, speaker? Because it's difficult. So if I ask you, if you talk, speak up.
Did you hear what he said?
No.
So what I said is that we are working towards attempting to put the middle school and high school on the same start and that will allow us to have better coordination. Oh, sorry, got turned off there. So we're working to put the middle school and the high school in the same start and end time. And that'll allow us to have greater coordination of the leaders, the team leaders that Sylvia's talking about, and the department chairs at the high school. Also provide some greater opportunity to have flexible staffing. So we might have some teachers that teach at both schools. And right now, if there's 2 different start times and end times, it's difficult to have shared staff. So getting this 2 schools on the same coordination create more efficiencies for the district.
Anyone else questions for Sylvia?
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Okay, the high school. Anthony and Stephanie.
Okay. I don't have a tremendous amount to tell you tonight, but I will be able to use the full 60 minutes I've been allotted. The first.
You have 2 or 3 from each of the other schools, so.
The first thing I wanted to say is that I always bring Stephanie with me as the assistant principal because we're a team and it's not only symbolic, but we work together. We work with the staff to put this stuff together. I think it's important just to acknowledge that. And they, the poor elementary principals don't have somebody to rely on. And I'm very lucky to have her. The first page that I have here with the budget overview, I just want to point out that the operational budget is down substantially this year at about 20%. And the way this works, if people get worried when you see numbers like that is, what are you getting rid of? And I think it's just that we are becoming more efficient in how we put our budget together at the high school. I've always used as an administrator 16 years, the zero-based budgeting. I know the whole district has been working through that. So anything that the teachers asked for, I put in the budget. So there's nothing in here that I said, no, that's not worth doing because I want to support the teachers and what they do with the kids. So please don't be worried when you see this like that negative. And we are talking about 0.001% of our overall operating budget that I have any control over. But that's okay because when I tell the staff, and we joke around about the phrase I use is for your notebooks. And what I tell people is if we do the small things right, in other words, we go through the process properly for these numbers, people will trust us more when we ask for something or we have a big issue to deal with. So we did the same process that we did the whole district last year at the high school, same as the other schools. And what the teachers asked for, I thought was all reasonable and we put it in. So if we go to the next slide, please. what you'll see is some changes. Like the middle school, we are going to be funding our musical and our play through the operating budget like we hadn't done in the past. We were using the proceeds from the sale of tickets to fund certain elements of that. Shows we're trying to be more supportive of all of our students and all of the activities that they participated. That's 4.9. The PD, we've moved all over to the curriculum line items. Anything that the teachers asked for related to PD, I put in the budget. I thought everything was appropriate. There was no boondoggles to Las Vegas or anything like that. It was all, related to what we're going to be doing moving forward next year with instruction and how we make use of the time in the school. Student activities, down 66%. That's okay, because again, this is everything the teachers asked for. And I went and looked at this year's operating actuals and we've spent zero. So I don't know if last year they over budgeted or not, but I'm very comfortable with the numbers that we're putting in here. Repair of instructional equipment. This is mostly for the band. I don't know when the last time the marching band uniforms have been dry cleaned, but I can tell just by walking down the hallway that they're due. So that's in there. We have also taken care of a lot of our instruments that we own. We tend to own some of the larger brass instruments like tubas, euphoniums, things like that. So we're going to get all those things taken care of. Transportation is also down. Again, looking at this year, where the kids are allowed to go places. I did just put a couple of things through today, but don't seem to be using the money that was budgeted for this year. So I'm not concerned about the reduction of 47%. And then finally, testing and scoring is up because our friends at the College Board have raised the cost of providing the SATs and the PSATs, but and that's basically it. And so if we go to the next slide, anything that we're doing next year, which I think is some majorly important work, is costing you guys nothing. All right, it's going to be, you're welcome, but it's going to produce tremendous results for our kids. And so it's a win-win for everyone. We are moving to a block schedule that our own teachers, we formed a committee. We visited schools from across 2 schools. We did a tremendous amount of research. We need to figure out how to use that time efficiently and effectively. We're starting with the PD this spring. And we're going to be rolling that over into the fall. We're not hiring a consultant to come in and lecture people. We're going to use authentic professional development, bringing teachers in from other schools that are teaching on the block. If you're a science teacher, you're going to meet with a science teacher that actually is teaching on the block and learn how the good things about it, the bad things that I don't want to tell anybody and they didn't tell us, but you need to know the reality of what you're getting into so you can perhaps move around some of the pitfalls that other people have already experienced. That type of PD is incredibly useful because the teachers are going to find it to be, real. It's not some, brainiac coming in for $5,000 and telling them everything that they think is good about the block. So the Ed Camp model, putting things together where teachers can pick. I want to go and do some work on learning about how to use that time to build an assessment. You don't always have to use a paper and pencil test to assess kids' learning. We have this quality block of time, and trust me, parents and staff and some people in the community might be concerned about the block. We're going to be teaching everybody about it, how we're going to use it. I think it's going to be I told the staff it's a canvas upon which we're going to paint our masterpiece. And I truly believe that it's going to be incredibly important for our development as an institution of learning. Developing a career center, an internship program, community partnerships is part of our strategic operating plan. We currently have a teacher's position open, 1 FTE that we could not fill this year in the area of consumer technical education. I used to call it industrial arts. Can't fill it. We would like to do is take that FTE position that's not in addition to the budget and turn that into some sort of coordinator position to run these types of programs. Try to hire somebody if we can to teach the accounting classes or business classes that might, if we go internally, perhaps we end up hiring somebody from the outside. I don't know yet, but to get this program actually running, we've had some meetings with Seymour and maybe what we can do with partnering with them. And so there's some good things, but we need to make use of, we need somebody to run it. She's busy, running the school, and I'm busy, shaking hands, kissing babies and things like that. So we need the help. Finally, this will allow us to maybe change our capstone program so we could do say you're not interested in going to college and you know that. And so the capstone project of research and presentation might not be something that's going to be valuable to you, but an internship or a way to start developing a license for if you want to get into a trade, that might be something that kids will actually use and be useful to them. So why put them through the process of a capstone if we can do something that's going to benefit their real life as they move out of the high school. So it's all connected. We talk about unifying everything we do as well. That's going to cost you nothing too, but make huge dividends for how we move forward. And we've started these processes. So that's what I have, and we're certainly open to any questions.
I want to emphasize that the work that Anthony is referring to for the internship is a major component of the strategic operating plan. So I want to thank him and Stephanie for bringing that forward because there's a direct connection to the work that we brought forward in the SOP. So thank you.
I have a quick question. I don't know if it's year one or year two, we went to the capstone where we have a company or a software or something that is helping guide the kids through that. So that would be, so now it sounds like they'll have more than one track. So if you want to do the internship or the, community partnership, you could do that, but we're not getting rid of that. Do you like that program? I really haven't heard that much about it, or it's
I
working.
think we're going to consider phasing that out over time.
Okay.
And I'd like to take short steps rather than one giant leap. I've talked about the great leap forward for many people and the disaster that was in China, but in the 1958 to 62. But the idea would be maybe we shift from classes for capstone to what it used to be like. And then we use these programs. Maybe we have a class for the students who maybe they don't have the executive functioning skills or the persistence that they'll need to get all the elements completed outside of, on their own. And maybe we only run one section of capstone as a class. And then what that does is opens up for our seniors a chance to take electives in the arts or in the sciences or whatever that they currently can't do because they're taking a capstone class the first semester of their senior year. So we're trying to make options available for the kids as much as we can.
Now, at capstone, what is the requirements? I mean, it's not a NEASC, is it?
It's a statewide graduation requirement. There would be some form of a capstone or an internship that a student does.
So we have to meet that standard, but it sounds
Correct.
like
And what we're talking about would meet
you're
that
meeting
standard.
more students' needs in what they're interested in, because.
Correct.
Right. And we feel that providing students some greater opportunity from an internship program could motivate students to really invest in something that is personally interested in and give them some experiences that will help them either in college or not, if they're not going to college or trade school or directly to a profession right from high school. As a reminder, this is something that was a huge part of the SOP. We are planning on bringing our recommendation to the curriculum committee in the spring of how we want to involve this. This is the second year of the capstone, the way that it evolved.
Oh, it
So
was
last
two?
year we implemented it. This is the first year that Stephanie and Anthony have seen it in full operation at the high school. The leadership of it changed slightly. We had different teachers that ran it last year as opposed to this year. We're still evaluating it. I think that there are some really good capstone projects that students did. But I want to give the administration a chance to kind of evaluate it. We just did the capstone presentations on Friday last week. So they need to kind of debrief and figure out, okay, what worked and what do we want to keep and what elements of it should be phased out or transferred into an internship program for next year. So I have planned for them to come to the curriculum committee sometime this spring to make recommendations on how they would like to see this evolve.
And I just appreciate that you are looking at your students and, finding pathways for, not just one pathway, but pathways for kids, according to their interests, because that's the only way that they're going to invest in something and put the time and the energy in it because it means something to them. So thank you. You were gonna say-
Just to clarify quickly, you asked about the program that we, Capstone isn't a new concept,
Right.
a new unfunded state mandate over the last few years, and it kept getting postponed. So that's why Oxford only had to develop it in the last couple of years. So the state tells us we have to do a Capstone program, but we don't have to abide by any certain rules.
Gotcha.
The state developed this online platform to make it more accessible for schools who really couldn't pick up the steam to do it. So our teachers have been through that online platform twice. We have initial information that we don't need that online platform anymore. I don't even know how much that costs, but it's a savings, not huge. So that part's good. But also, the whole point is for students to explore their own interest, and maybe they find out they don't like it, which is
Right.
such a better experience in high school than when we're all paying for them to go to college or whatever
Right.
they pick next. So, yeah, we're really excited. And you've heard me talk about in the past about our capstone being student-centered and our career and internships. So you will see we're almost done. Our students are making a video for you so you can
Oh,
see
great.
a capstone presentation and their work on student-led internship, highlighting our school and the opportunities we have for our kids. So
Right.
again,
And
I'll
I
tell you
think-
when to bring the popcorn for that one.
I thank you on behalf of Vic, who's not here tonight. You know how that is important to him, that career and an internship program. So he'll be very happy with you.
You tell him he can call me tomorrow to thank
I
us.
will. Does anybody else have questions for high school? Thank you.
so much.
And I'm going to invite Dorothy up for the curriculum. So the pages are a little bit further ahead than the slideshow has, but she's going to be next.
So now you have everybody's budget in your budget.
I do. But I mean, there's benefit to that, I think. And it helps us to bring us more as a community and kind of see all the professional learning and things going through one area.
What page are you?
Page 20, page 25.
Thank you. Essential. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Is that good? Okay, so as many of the principals have mentioned, the professional learning is being absorbed into one kind of a bucket. So it's all there. Nobody's losing professional learning. It's coming out of one area now. The other increase that you would see is for the professional supplies. I know it looks like a scary number, 361%. It's actually $5,000. As we are bridging K-5 and 6-8 with math, we have a math task force, and we're finding ways to merge the mathematical community within the district, and that would cover some of the supplies and things that we would be doing next year. And for the new textbooks, the increase in the textbooks are the music textbooks that were approved for the new courses and the decodable texts. Going back to the professional learning, as you heard from K-5, we're going to be spending a lot of time on literacy, and decodables, and really streamlining and having a very solid, comprehensive program at the start of the school year. So, so there will be a lot of work there. That's pretty much it.
Anybody have questions?
Any questions?
I do.
Yes.
On the professional development, we've been hearing from the staff that this is something that they always feel like it's not funded enough. And we've always said, tell us what you want and we'll fund it. So I'm hoping that whatever they've asked for is included in this and that we're following through with some of the requests the staff has made.
It is. We spent actually, so that's interesting. So we spent with PDEC, we wrote a new mission and a vision, and they were tasks, the PDEC members were tasked to go out and speak with people from their school. So it's not an administrator talking to a teacher, it's a teacher talking to a teacher to get some information from them. And we're going to outline all of next year before the end of this year. So, and that'll be something that we share with everyone.
Thank you. Anybody else?
All set. Thank you so
That's
much for
good.
being here today.
We're now going to go to special education. Megan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Megan Pogonowski. I'm the Director of Special Education.
Page 19.
19, thank you.
Oh, yes. 19, 20. Sorry.
Lots of rules. So looking at the budget, Mark, I'm actually going to have you explain the top one because it says an increase and a decrease.
Yeah, what I tried to point out is that your variances, your accounts right now.
So that's okay. So we do have the school psychologist vacancy that has been open since the summer. We continue to post. We still have not had any applicants. So in the meantime, to support the need of students, we have hired a social worker to fill in the 2 spaces at the high school and Great Oak Elementary to do the service needs of students. So that is that variance there. In terms of the increase of the speech and behavioral assistance support, we did add a BCBA to the budget to support increased student behavior across the building. So we are seeing a large increase of behavior in students, behavior in which we do have to restrain students, and that's becoming a problem across the board. It's not just unique here in Oxford, it's happening, across the state. But if we could have the BCBA in district, they would be able to obviously have, the more people and hands on deck, the better, but they'll be able to build plans, train better for those plans. With one BCBA, it's hard to train all the teachers and assistants on the plan of the student. And it also would provide us a way for the BCBA to help in the classroom to help prevent some of these behaviors from happening and escalating before they get to special education. So helping with the tiered 1 supports as well. We had a decrease in legal services. We do have a student that had a previous settlement agreement that is graduating this year, so that supported that decrease. We do have an increase in professional services. So again, one of the things that we are seeing is an increase in behavioral need for students, and we have seen an increase of the need for psychiatric and neuropsychological exam and evaluations outside of the district. So we've put in the budget to make sure that we have enough. Just in terms of some context, we've had 4 in the last 2 months that have had to happen. And this is really going to inform kind of the decision-making we make for the student and make sure, everybody, including staff, are safe and students are getting the programming that they need. In terms of in-district transportation, there was a decrease because we do have the CEP van up and running. So we're able to do all the transportation to and from home through the CEP van, and then they do all of the job site transportation as well. So you'll see an increase in the transportation for fuel because obviously it's kind of shifted a little bit. We don't need the transportation, but we need the fuel to have them. They've also been supporting us too with some of our other students that require either shortened days or a different schedule. They're kind of doing the runs for that too. So it's been really beneficial. In terms of, again, the fuel is an increase just due to increased fuel costs and our out of district transportation. It's just the additional cost from outside providers. As you know, transportation costs some money and they have an increase as well. So we're seeing that. And then our out of district placement to our RESCs, which are our regional educational service centers. We have about 5 students outplaced currently, and that's just considering the increased tuition costs, which are typically lower than private placements. And then our private placement, there is a slight decrease. We did have a student graduating. We have only 1 student going into a program, as well as we did kind of, of a student that may need to go into an outplacement program, but we also had a student move in mid-year that had to go to an outplacement as well. In terms of initiatives, just making sure that we are supporting that increased behavior. We know that performance for students doesn't increase if they're having behavioral issues. They're not ready to learn if they're impacted by what's kind of going on. So we want to really focus on supporting that with the additional BCBA and working with the social worker. Our next one is our specialized programs are up and running. So we have obviously CEP for our 18 to 22-year-old students, which just got an approved curriculum. So they'll be working on a specific curriculum, which is great. But we want to start looking into curricular opportunities for our other specialized programs that align to their types of needs. So it would be obviously Common Core aligned, but it would kind of modify assignments and work to support their level of need. So our students with autism, our students with developmental disabilities. And again, just the increased need of outside evaluators Unfortunately, neuropsychs and psychiatric evaluations are not something we can do in district. And then we have a really great structured literacy program, but we want to just kind of continue to focus on that and maximize what we have with our district support. So we have a lot of teachers trained. We have some really highly qualified professionals, but making sure that we're utilizing them in the best way to support the most students. So that's another initiative that we'll focus on. I know I have 20 minutes, so if there's any questions.
I have one question from Shelley. And she said, if the social worker is replacing, maybe you can just further explain how the social worker, I believe, if I understand it, is helping with the counseling part of the school psychologist. But so how are you doing as far as the educational testing that psychologists have to do?
So currently we have a school psychologist that is split between two buildings, and they're doing the management of the PPTs at those buildings as well as the testing. And you're right, the social worker is doing the counseling supports that are on IEPs.
Right.
Ultimately, it would be best to have a school psychologist in every building. So we'll continue to look for one. But right now, this is meeting the needs of all of the students. And then we're also getting the testing. If it comes to a point where there's too much testing going on, we can utilize some of our other school psychs if needed to do an evaluation at another school.
As a reminder, we posted for a school psychologist in August when our school psychologist left the district. We were unable to get any applicants over the course of 4 months. For the greater part of the fall, we were one of 14 districts that had school psychologists posted. It's a shortage area. So through some creative thinking from special education, we decided that the best opportunity to support the student needs that we had right now would be to split the school psychologist and hire a second social work to split between the two different schools. Best case scenario, a school psychologist in each school. But after going 4 months of having 0 applicants for the position, that included posting in our AppleTrack system on CT Reap, the state special education system, and Indeed, we were still not getting any applicants for the position. So we had to look at another creative way to support student needs.
We have 1 currently for the whole district. We have RBTs that are assigned to us. So we're actually kind of working, we're working on that too, because that hasn't been the most consistent either. But we do work with a company to have the RBTs, which are registered behavior technicians that do the implementation of plans. But the BCBA has to do the evaluation and the formulation of the plans, and they're doing the staff training as well.
Through June 2021, we had 2 BCBAs full-time in the district.
Yes,
Correct.
we do still have an in-district technician.
Both right now.
And then we contract for 1
Yeah.
currently.
Right.
I don't think so. It would depend on student need. That's really how we determine the RBTs. And we're also kind of looking for ways to grow our internal capacity to do that. So we're kind of looking and exploring different ways to do that with our paraprofessionals as well. But right now, I think we would be okay. But again, it's based on student need. But, sometimes we're looking at, I would prefer maybe trying that before an out of district placement. So we are looking for different creative ways to support students too.
I'm speaking to teachers and I have conversations with the building leadership across the schools. The concern of student behavior comes up time and time again. It was a heavy conversation last year. It's a heavy conversation this fall. And by providing an additional BCBA to the district allows us to get into the classrooms, look at proactive ways to address student behaviors before they become disruptive. And disruptive students in classrooms interrupt students' ability to learn and teachers' ability to teach the students in their room. And having just one in the district is not sufficient for that. So really the concept of having another BCBA came through conversations that we had with teachers, a request, and them seeing an increase in student behaviors across the board. So this really did stem from conversations of requests that teachers are saying, we need help in this area.
Whatever, 6 or 7 years ago when we invested in PBIS, which is positive behavior interventions. Do you think that there needs to be some kind of a structural change? Obviously, you want to promote positive behavior, you want to promote the kids that are said between the last couple of years across the country. Behaviors are very dysregulated. So, having more people observing is one thing, but do we need any other kind of structure in the schools to make the rules clear, that consequences can't always just good. Sometimes if you make a mistake, you're going to see consequences. So, does that need to change, or do you think that's working?
I mean, I definitely think we could take a look at it. I do think some of the kids that are experiencing these needs, it's more of an organic need and something that we could put rules in place, but it's more of the disability that's kind of impacting. So aside from that, I do know.
I'm not talking about studies, I'm just talking about children in general with their behaviors.
Yeah, and I do think, looking again at the social emotional curriculum and making sure that we're implementing that. I know at Quaker Farms, we have one of our teachers in one of those grade levels that are seeing the impact, and our social worker is now going into those classrooms doing specific lessons that we have through everyday speech with those groups of students. So I think we're looking at alternative ways to start it and build it from that tier 1 in that classroom so that we can have the support. And that's the hope of the BCBA too, is to not just be working with our special education students, but helping teachers within class strategies when these behaviors happen.
Which school has missing the school psych?
So currently,
Greenfield Elementary and High School share, so they have a capacity.
If you had another one, you would be billing the grade up.
Yeah. we can look at that.
I just have a, Megan, I think our numbers have significantly jumped in SPED. Do you have them with you? Or I know in the beginning of the school year, we had a bunch of kids that moved into town, and we kind of got the middle school. We had like 20 something kids that moved in the
30, the day before school.
right there, some huge amount right before school.
Registered and everything.
So out of those, I mean, SPED kid, where are we with our numbers?
I think if you a report on the next by tomorrow, which is the updated numbers, we are seeing increase in numbers. Again, not unique to Oxford, but we are seeing decline. We're also seeing a decline in referrals to Rockland School. So I think if you want to see the numbers, I would say we are actually, they look at the other day, I think we're close to 300. So we were at 260. Like higher than that. But I will get them for the numbers tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, let's move to facilities now.
Page 28.
Page 28. And let me introduce Mike for the Board of Finance. Mike joined us in November. Mike is our new Chief Operations Officer.
Cost center overall. Operations is like 2% increase. So I'd like to just run down. Highlights. We have an increase in ground maintenance contracts, primarily. Based on the fact that
year to date right now, we're at 7 million. So manage that. Next year, they'll store it.
Like, you just speak up a little.
I'm sorry.
I don't think that, I don't know if that helps.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. So at Oxford High School, have 10% increase right now. We only have 17% remaining for the rest of this fiscal year. So there is prudent to increase that by a little bit. Might trend that way. We have a 15% increase in social supplies down at the bottom of that page. Primarily, that because there was a purchase of some items at the end of last year. Well, and so that is artificially depressing some of the supply doors. So we anticipate that's going to crash up a little bit. For the variances, we have a 30% reduction in the facility technician position. This was the restructuring of the operational, where we took the district maintenance technician, created a district maintenance technician position, and there was a reduction in that line item. I spoke about the grounds maintenance contract that we're experiencing right now. We anticipate for next year. The repairs and maintenance at Quaker Farms, we have plumbing maintenance repairs expected for next year. We've been identifying as much as we can and fixing them as we go. I don't anticipate that they're going to continue, but I'm an optimist. So I'm hoping that will bear fruit. Food repair services, there's increases in labor and cost part parts. So we're just putting in an increase for that. We are getting a lot of new equipment that was purchased this year. So that will hopefully continue. So the supplies that spoke about, it's more of a supply chain inflation and just trying to make sure that when we start to replace what we purchased in advance, that we have the funds. Questions? Sorry, initiatives. Sorry. So on the initiatives, obviously, the building that we're in has some issues. One initiative that we're going to look at. The second thing is we look at concern grading for the facility. It's a fancy way for us saying that we have some deferred maintenance. We're trying to identify them as they pop up. We're going to have to react. Probably the two areas that we're going to see the most amount of fluctuation.
I have a question. It's basically for the 300,000 that we might be, it basically look like we're going to be on the hook for. That's going under groundskeeping, correct? So that increase would potentially, this is the budget line, the cost center that would take the hit. Do you know, I mean, I don't think we've in the past, because we've done the high school, but I don't think we've done the other fields. Do we have, I mean, I think we're guesstimating at 300,000, but do we know if that's the amount or is it going to be higher, lower? And the contracts that were signed, we didn't sign them because they were not of our responsibility. So do they go out to bid again?
I think they go out yearly. The Park and Rec field maintenance budget for the current year is 300,000.
For this current year.
In this, so I would say, hold your fire on that. We got to settle up. Who pays for what in all these contracts? Who pays for this school? Who pays for the field contracts? Who pays for a lot of the services? Okay. Whether it goes into the school budget or it goes into the town budget, either way, the town's paying for everything anyway. Okay, so the town has to reimburse the Board of Education. I think George got a little bit over his skis today, so let's hold off on as far as the maintenance and go what you have in the budget here. Okay, I do have a lot of, I've been holding back because this is a presentation for the board, just this, there's a ton of questions, but we'll go till we find we get our budget committee going and our board of finance. Everybody comes up, but I want to, continue, but don't worry about that 300,000 for now.
Well, we kind of, I mean, not that we're directing to you, but we have to factor if it's on the table and it's being presented that we are absorbing it, to not put it in our budget and potentially present a suppressed budget that then has to absorb. It's,
Look, I know we're the 300,000. I'm very well aware of it. So if your budget comes in, it's, what do you have, 34 million? And you did have to take the field, your budget would be 34,300,000. Okay, that'll tell you that. So don't worry about it tonight as far as the facilities go.
okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike.
Now it's just on page 31, starts on 31.
And Jim is our IT coordinator. I could do so for you if you want.
That's right. So overall, our increase is a 4.4 increase. And when I go through, you'll see some of the big areas where there were increases. Software contract and licensing, 8.4% is about your average increase for software insurance. Training is 29.5. We had addition training for staff needed by cyber insurance. Computer repairs and supplies, 91%. So 91% counts for Chromebook repairs. Essentially, what we figured we would do is this is for free and reduced students, and then the cost will be passed on to the rest. And we priced it out, we found a company, and it kind of goes with Anthony's internship initiative as well. We're going to try to leverage some of the high school students that are good or interested in learning how to do that. Found a company that will take the insurance money, supply us with screens and keyboards, which are the two easiest parts to change out. And the kids can do that to start. And then as we get harder or they feel more comfortable doing those repairs, they can start to trackpad and supply us with those. If there's bigger repairs, well, we can actually send them out to the company. So it's kind of a win-win for both of us. And the average cost for a touchscreen is going to be a little bit more than a non-touchscreen. And our Quaker Farm school has all touchscreens. But it's still pretty reasonable. It's like $28.21 for a touchscreen. So that cost would be absorbed by the parents. The numbers would, for free and reduced, were based off of this year with a little bump. So that would be the copier lease, we took out a little bit of money in the copier lease due to the fact that we're going to try to pinpoint where our copies are going. We pay a lot more when they come out of the printer than they do the copiers. So we're going to try to leverage a little bit more of the copier side and maybe adjust the color numbers as opposed to the black and white copy. So we'll negotiate that with CPS. Company. Education software and maintenance is a slight increase again. We're doing a better job of pinpointing what software is being used by the students. There's a software called Clever that kind of tracks for us on the backside what is actually being used by each of the schools. So we have a good idea of what they are using on at least the Chromebooks if they sign up for Clever. And that's just a general increase again. Communications, a 316% increase. So what we did with that is we added the phones, the SIP lines for the 4 buildings, excluding Quaker Farms, which is what we use to make our phone calls over, or in the general budget. We move those into mine. I'm doing most of the legwork on those lines anyways, so it's just easy for me to keep things on. The other part is Quaker Farms is still using Frontier's copper lines, which found to be extremely high. We are in the process of now moving them over to zip lines, which should reduce that 316 probably way more. I just didn't want to right now drop all the Frontier lines because we have elevator lines, we have fire alarm lines, we have all those essentials in there until we start to move some of Quaker Farms numbers over. I think we were paying for over 100 phone lines that all the whole high school. We actually called the number and somebody picked up, had to get Paul Mirabelle in and said, who is that on the phone? So, we're hoping to see that communication line come down, possibly even before we actually go. So that's good there. And assistive technology hardware, we don't really see a lot of need for that. We don't get a lot of requests for them. We have stock of iPads, so we just keep getting them out. And we still have a good, 10, 15 in our closet that we're not using. So we reduce that just generally. Some of the major initiatives that we're going to be working on is reduce the telephone cost line. We're going to renegotiate the copier lease, and we're going to move the computer repairs to the student-based program for basic repairs. We are also probably going to be looking at digitizing some of the records that we have here, because we don't have it. Schools are getting overpacked with storage, and we found a solution that will work for us pretty well. We can get back in there. We can add those, so that's also.
I have a question. I don't hear too much anymore about smart boards. That was a huge initiative,
Correct.
The bulbs are a ton of money. They're breaking down the use of Chrome, that all kids have Chromebooks now. Does that kind of decrease the use of the smart boards
No,
or?
the smart boards still being used. We are looking at using some of the E-rate funds that we've had in our account for a while to replace some of the smart boards in Quaker Farms this year.
Right.
But the middle school's all brand new smart
Yep.
boards. So those would probably be the next one up in high school. But you're finding with this style of smart board is that it's a TV. TVs last much longer than projectors. Projectors blow, bulbs blow.
Right.
So these are not projector based TVs.
Okay, so they're
They're a
economical.
little more sturdy.
Okay, thank you. I mean, years ago, it just was
Correct.
so much money on, and now
Yeah,
it's
and
not
still
even in
on-
your
it's still
budget.
on their price.
Yeah, all right.
But luckily for Quaker Farms, the infrastructure is there for the board.
Mhm.
We just have to kind of replace the board and upgrade some of the.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and I love that same basic program.
Yeah, and we're gonna try to extend this down to the middle school if we can as well. For state defense.
It's so great for those kids that are undersigned.
Yeah, we have one student currently helping us whenever he can. So he pops in, yes, he took the front desk in the office. And,
Awesome.
it's a little messy, but he's getting the hang of it though, so that's good.
Good.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I just thought that was awesome.
As far as like the computer repairs and supplies, you have an ongoing replacement cycle on Chromebooks, like 30 a year or whatever?
We don't have an actual cycle yet. Because of the way it came out, COVID, we have devices everywhere. We have more devices that I manage that we don't have, period. Just because of the way they went out. It was that kind of big throw a device. It's like, so we don't have a really good handle on the cycle. Next year, we're okay. None of our devices will go out of updates, so we're okay for across the board. But we're going to want to start replacing some.
Yeah, I just don't want to come into the situation where come with 600 Chromebooks.
Correct, yeah. So the hardest thing is trying to find a good cycle. I've talked to some other districts that they've done where they get a new Chromebook like in 6th grade, and ninth grade. They kind of keep that Chromebook footage out, which is about the life of it, and then they drop those out. And move them in. So then you're only really buying for 2 grades. So we might look into something like that.
And the only other question, not kind of like a campus setting of where all the schools are, with the communications being, all those power lines, is there any possible way of bringing up those buildings, wireless or fiber?
They are, so they are, all our campuses are connected. This is a communications one, it's so big because we took it from Jarvis, and so it wasn't there. And then Frontier being 18,000. I mean, we conservatively took out 8,000 from 18, but I think probably way less, especially if we only hold the essential ones. A couple things, one more thing before we break out too is that the desktop computer will probably have to replace something like 2025. Windows 10 is having like do all of them. I think we can do the middle school ones on Windows 11, but that's another big kind of segment refresh as well.
Is that, do we have a segment for that? That's
Not to my knowledge. Yeah. We're trying to work on that.
I have a question. For the, let's say, we're calling it internships for the students doing repairs. Are we imagining that this is going to be after school, or is it going to be like an internship type class during school that they could go to, it's period 3, I'm going to repair Chromebooks?
That's actually what we do currently with the one student that we have. He kind of comes whenever he can, when he has a study that he doesn't have work to do for. He pops in and he just walks right in, he just gets to work.
But beyond a study period, are we looking, if let's say someone is doing an internship versus, the capstone project, is that, are we, is this on for discussion, or is maybe it's to,
We really had a conversation about that.
Okay.
We've talked about it. We'll work on it. Less concerned about that.
well, I'm just excited for that. So I'm just curious because kids going after school versus during the school day, there's advantages to both. So I'm excited to hear where this evolves.
Yes, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. We've had kids come in and say, hey, I'm rewiring my house for network. And he was asking us questions the whole time, which was interesting to me because that's a pretty big project. Although somewhat easy, but also pretty big. I think the interest is there.
Great. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mark now. He's going to take us through central office and athletics and security and district-wide.
So why don't we go back to the top and we'll work our way through the ones we haven't talked about. So let's go to page 16. Let's talk about district-wide. So this covers a lot of area here. Not much in the way of salaries. But I do, and then again, it's all, the medical. You can see everything that's listed on page 16. So why don't we just go through the variances? So go to page 17. By the way, NM is non-meaningful. If anybody wants one, non-meaningful. So we use that because, anyway, it's 0 divided by 64,000 gives you some crazy number. Okay.
Yeah, I will say that and you'll see this in our budget presentation, the budget book on Tuesday, one of our major initiatives in the budget are interns. And we're putting interns, we're requesting 1 intern per building. One of the major challenges that we have right now is lack of substitute teachers. And right now we did get a building substitute teacher in 3 of our 4 schools. We would like it in all 4 of our schools. But this would kind of replace the need for a permanent building sub because you end up having a student that is in school for an education degree. So they can have, they have the capacity in the background to go into classroom and provide substitute coverage directly into class. It gives the principals a permanent person in their school that's qualified. Right now, the challenge is if we don't have a sub, we're pulling our math coaches, we're pulling our interventionists, we're pulling our tutors. In some cases, we're pulling paras. And in each of those cases, what's happening is we're pulling services, denying services, either SRBI, special education, from students that, if you look at it, need the most support in the district in the first place. So we are shortchanging our students because we don't have the substitute coverage. Providing an intern kind of stabilizes that. Oftentimes we have special education teachers that have to attend SR bad meetings or 504 or a PPT. And we just need coverage for an hour or an hour and a half for a meeting. So this gives some flexibility for the principal to say to an intern, okay, here are 5 classes you're going to go into today to provide coverage. Or in some cases, this is the one teacher going to provide coverage for the full day. And it gives us a high quality person in the school that the principals can depend upon. It is a model that we used to have in this district. A lot of school districts do the intern model. So it is a major request that we did put into this budget for next year.
The next line you'll see is significant, of course, in our budget is the medical and dental. So you'll see it's actually a decrease of 1.2. Now, I just want to point out that the decrease is 160. If we had stayed with the HEP plan, our costs would have increased by 630 this year. So that's a swing of $800,000 by going with the United Healthcare plan versus HEP. So I know a lot of work went into that and it hustled through to get it to the end. So I think a credit, especially coming in from the outside and seeing that, is a credit to the board and to Dr. Miller for the vision to get that done. That's a big swing. So that was good news. Offset by, of course, utilities. The good news there is Jim was out in front. The town was out in front and got, a really favorable rate. I think about 7 cents a kilowatt hour. I did find going through things that, however, the middle school was missed, which is the biggest one of all. I worked with Jim quickly, so we'll get a contract for that for only about 10 cents versus the street rate of 24 cents with Eversource. So that's a nice recovery. It's going to save us about 70,000 this year. But going back to utilities, everything's up: electricity, heating, fuel, propane. Our electricity supply contract expires in next December. So I've kind of projected where we think we'll be. I hope we'll be better, but I think I'm being a little pessimistic there. But I did talk to Jim on that. Also, I'd like to see us get our propane and oil, instead of just paying market, go to a consortia. So I have a consortia that I've worked with when I was in Derby, and it's with the other school districts in the state. So I'm going to try to work that out too. We should save some significant money there too. But right now, I think I have everything fairly priced. The phones, again, that shifted to the IT budget. So it's a complete savings of 50,000, where we had money in there for communication. So that's going to save. All-Star, we have a 5-year contract with them that's coming to the end. We met with the board of finance. Decisions to move forth with All-Star with a 6% increase. Although it's a large increase, it's a lot. I've seen anywhere, talk to them, my fellow business management folks, anywhere from 8 to 25% increase with transportation costs because they just can't get the drivers. So, we're very fortunate here. Even if we were to go out to bid, you'd be probably paying at least 10, 12%. The beauty of this is that, you're not going to get a company to come here and bid because we're so small. They don't want an Oxford. They want a New Haven, or they want a Hartford, or they want a Bridgeport. It's not worth it for a new company to come in here. So anyway, I have a pretty good relationship with John Dufour from All-Star. So I talked with John. So I think we'll come up to a solution on that. So although you might say, wow, it's going to be 6% and then 4% year over year, and we'll see if we can better that. We'll also see if they can throw a few little tidbits in to sweeten the pot. So I think a good news story with that. Property and liability, I just went with whatever our broker said. So that's an increase of 10% for property and liability. Hot lunch program, that's a savings of about 10,000. The new contract with Whitson's is they guarantee no deficit. Okay. So, and I will tell you that's, and I've shared this with the finance committee. We're in a really good position. They've done a really nice job here. We're in the black by a lot. You talk to some of these other districts, they're in the red. Go to talk to New Haven, go to talk to Stratford. They're running the red. We're running the black here by a lot. So they've done a good job. So we can reduce that. We won't have a deficit. They'll take care of that with the contract. I will say that, the district office and instructional supplies, I did talk to Dr. Miller. We decided that with everything else going on, we knew we had some other things we wanted to add in here. So we're going to keep that budget the same. If you remember, we started the initiative last year. We're going to control that at a district wide. That'll allow us to probably save some costs. I will say that we went out and asked all the schools and the departments to come up with their requests. we ended up taking about, 96,000 or 30, we cut that by 36%. So we're going to have to live with the supply budget as we live with it this year. Professional services, again, a huge, a big increase of 325%, but that gets offset by, that's really Twin Lakes, the company that I work for. That gets offset by the assistant superintendent position that used to do, part of the responsibility was business management. With Mike coming in and with the facilities manager now becoming part of Mike's responsibility. So when that all gets added up, it's neutral. So there's no addition. So although you see a big increase here, that decreases come out of salaries. So anyway, that's the district-wide budget. Any questions there? Very good. And our initiatives for the year are going to be, I want to really get, the schools right now, the school activity funds are all controlled by the schools. I want to get that all under IV and under the general ledger. It just provides better control for me to see what's going on. And it'll also alleviate some of the reporting issues we have at the school. So anyway, that's, although they've done a good job, they manage it down to the penny. They're very proactive when I call them. I want to bring that over to, we're going to bring that over to IV. We'll probably do that to start no later than the start of the next fiscal year. We're also looking at transportation changes. Dr. Miller talked about getting the hours to coincide. Not so sure what that's going to do. I've had 2 conversations with the general manager, All-Star right now. He's thinking about a little more, but we'll get together with him to talk about that. But that's an initiative for next year.
And there's really no specific place to talk about this because it kind of floats through the entire district. And that's how we hired staff this year. So I'm going to talk about it in the district-wide piece here. And what I mean by that is when a teacher retires or secretary leaves or administrator leaves or paraprofessional leaves, and you hire somebody that's new, just by the nature of where they're coming into the salary scale, if you strategically hire qualified people at a lower step because they have less experience, then you end up with the delta and you end up with the savings of the budget. This year, we ended up with a delta that exceeded $600,000. So we did very well. And I want to thank the principals for their hard work in hiring this summer because of that delta, our salary lines across the board going into next year is pushed down by $600,000 because of the hiring practices that we did this year. So our net next year would have been $600,000 and more had this people been hired at around the same step. So the work that was done this year put us in a very good financial position going to next year.
And again, just to add, if you add that piece, so she took that 600,000 figure, we got 2 or 3%. That would have been 630,000 more you would have added to this year's budget. On top of that, you would have added probably another $500,000 for the medical. So by being good stewards of, the town's money, the taxpayers' money, I think you can all say, hey, right now, the budget we're going in with is $1.1 million less. That would have been on top of what we already asked. We would have been at 8%, not at 5% or 3%. So, a good job. And those are just the 2 items we looked into, but they're major items. So, so there was good work done there. If there's no further questions, why don't we jump to the next section we haven't covered yet, which will start on page 23. And that I just combined central office security because they're pretty small budgets. There's only really 2 things that kind of pop when you look at it. So if you go to page 24 on non-certified wages, again, a little more being proactive. We did take out, we moved the former special ed secretary, and we moved her over to central office. Marilyn's doing a really good job with the district control, district-wide supplies and office supplies. So she's over on ours she's in the central office staff now versus SPED. And then we also replaced an admin in the central office with a newer person. So again, the salary came down. So good news there is that's down 4%. As far as the building upkeep, this goes back to when we were at Tommy K's, I guess. So there was a $45,000. There was a lease amount we had to pay. And then I guess from what, Rob, you can explain more, but when we came here, we kept this here because we didn't know what the cost would be for this building. We are paying for all the utilities in this building, regardless of, who's in it. And any upkeep we have to do, leak here, this leaks, we take care of most of that too. But it's minor, and Mike has that in his,
Right.
in his budget.
The original conversation when we moved here was that the costs were going to be split with the town. So we've looked at this building, and the estimate was going to be around $80,000 to $100,000 for the utilities and upkeep of this building. So at the time, we budgeted around $45,000, $50,000 in what was the building lease line for the old central office, budget in this account here. That stayed in last year, but as we looked at it, we're maintaining the cost for this building in other line items. So we don't need to maintain a line item of 40,000 because it's being covered in other areas of utilities and elsewhere.
So if there's no questions there, we'll jump to the last piece we haven't talked about yet. So why don't you flip to page 34, 35. Joe puts in a lot of hours, and so does Damon. So Dr. Miller and I will cover the athletics piece. So if you do go to page 35, I will say they did a very detailed job here. So you'll see an increase of 16.5% for professional services for the high school. That's only because we had the filming services of this. It was in the supplies budget where it should not have been. It's a professional service. So it's just moving one from the other. The money was already there. So it just increases the supplies by a little bit.
And what that system does, it allows coaches to film the practices and the games and actually use that as you would in a typical college or pro team, actually look at the film, analyze it with the players, and use it to improve practice and game practices. So it's used on an everyday basis in a number of athletics, and it's tied to the video systems in the gym and in the field.
Next one you'll notice is equipment repairs and maintenance. And again, it's a significant increase from this year's budget of 16,000. It's an increase of 16,000. So, but Joe has some very specific things that are issues that are chronic issues that he wants to repair. So chain link fence repairs on the west side, on the baseball and softball fields, installation of gates in the west side field for soccer balls that get kicked over. So the balls get kicked over the fence and the kids have to jump over the fence. Not a good idea, right? So we'll put a gate in there. Replacement of the Wolverine Field scoreboard console. Again, those things get tired. So it's 10 years old. There's some malfunction during the past season. Embarrassing when you have home games. So we'll fix that. And then the headsets for athletic events, some of those are getting a little tired, so those need to get fixed. So it all adds up, but I think Joe put together a pretty thoughtful budget here. As far as transportation goes, again, a couple of things come into play here for the high school. One of the issues is that with the lack of drivers, All-Star used to always cover all of our after-school transportation. They just can't do that. So they'll do what they can, but then Joe will have to go out to B&B or some of these other companies to get them. So they are a little bit higher because they specialize a little bit, but Joe just goes out and gets where we can at the lowest price. So there's some additional costs, and even those companies, the costs, of course, going up because they can't find drivers. We did put additional costs here for freshman boys basketball trips. It wasn't in last year's budget. So it's not a huge amount of money, but there is an increase in transportation for the high school. As far as supplies go, again, we already talked about the video service system going into professional service where it belong. We do need to add this Rogers mobility chute. And I guess from what I understand from Joe, it's a training device that helps the kids out to stay low. So the whatever we have now is not quite great. So Joe wants to put that chute into play. As far as uniforms go, it's, Joe, we have the rotation every year. We buy so many uniforms. So it's going to go up a little bit because we have to buy new football jerseys. Those get a little more expensive than some other sports. So he needs a little bit more money there. Dues and fees. We went through this. These are the right numbers. So, the budget was a little understated before, but he has to pay all the CIAC dues they pay by sport. So that's to be about $5,000. And then thankfully, we've partnered with Derby. So although we don't have enough students to support our own wrestling team, we can get with Derby and be in a co-op.
And I will add with that if the costs were not here, we'd see a higher cost elsewhere in the budget because you'd be paying a coach here at a higher rate than we'd be paying to co-op or collaborate.
Right. And I will say the Derby coach who I know is very good. So it's good that they're in Derby. And as far as middle school goes, and a couple little things there that, again, increased transportation costs. We did an exact count. David did a good job figuring out, working with Joe, the number of trips. So we were maybe a little bit under plus extra costs. And then the dues and fees were overstated for the middle school for some reason. So that kind of covers everything that's going on with athletics. And we have now gone through the entire budget book or budget book light. And then if you go to page 3 or page 3, it gives a summary of the total budget. So again, total ask of everything you've seen here is 34,427,822, increase of $1.5 million or 4.65%. There's some opportunities we're taking a look at. And those could up to 175,000. One of those was taking out $50,000, which was a rough estimate to cover the football field. So again, let's see how that all settles out. But right now, we're somewhere between 4.12 and a 4.65% increase. We started out at around 8. Dr. Miller said we worked it down. And again, remember too, if we didn't take care of the medical and if the salary, replace salaries with the same people that left the same rate, that would have been another 1.1. So that's kind of where we are as of tonight. If you flip to the last page of the presentation, which is page 37, I just put in there, we put in there a rough timeline of where we are. So tonight, obviously, we're doing the budget workshop. Right now, we're scheduled to meet with the board on the 24th, and we'll have the budget book or as much as we can get in.
Right. So if you could go to slide 37. What will happen is over the weekend, I will put together and translate the presentation you see tonight and the budget you see tonight. There might be a few tweaks that we make to the actual budget tomorrow, and we'll make and produce a budget book that our cabinet will review on Monday. I will then upload that to board docs on Monday late afternoon so that you'll have a chance to see that for the board meeting on Tuesday night. I'll have a slide presentation that kind of re-summarizes what you heard tonight. We'll have the presentation and we'll have the budget book in a 3-ring binder so that as we go through the budget process, which will include the at least 1 or 2 or more board finance committee meetings. So if we have any changes or we tell you, okay, page 5 needs to come out, here's a new page 5, you don't have to reprint the entire booklet. And then through the 2 meetings in February, there'll be opportunities in the first meeting of the month for the board to discuss the budget. If there's any full group conversation around a general direction you want us to go, that first meeting will be able to do so. And then February 28th is when the board would entertain a vote to approve the overall operating budget for the school district, at which point we'll then submit it to the Board of Finance for them to begin their conversations, and they will let us know when they are ready for us to come in, present to them and answer their questions. So at this point, I see if there's any questions that you might have, or if there's any quick questions that the Board of Finance members have for us this evening while we're here.
What I'd like to see on I like the presentation. At the town, we're still with the feather pen and the green eye shades. Our computer is so far back. But anyway, I'd like to see the actual. I'd like to see the actual on there for last year. The year ended June 30, 2022, because you've got a budget, you got your revised budget, okay? And I'm assuming your revised budget is at your board meetings, you change budget items. And is that how your procedure goes? To get your revised budget?
If we make transfers, it's voted on and it's very formalized process.
So it's within the your framework of your total budget balance, right?
Yes.
Do you have any clue how this year, 2022, turned out? Oh, I know that. The audit's on call because for one reason, they can't reconcile the Board of Education with the town's budget. Okay, I'm going to try to straighten that out for everybody tomorrow because we're too far advanced now. We get into the budget season, we don't know our actual general fund balance. Okay, but do you have a clue for last year? How did last year turn out? Plus or minus?
Last year, we
to know, I know where we are, because I know.
Was it a plus or minus? All right. It's in, the budget's up 4.5%. Okay. And the town itself, everybody, and you allowed for inflation and a lot of your utility numbers and your insurance and everything, because that's going to go up. Okay. There's no doubt about it. That's an automatic increase, whether you did nothing, whether you had the same salary, same staff, everything. Okay. But again, the town and the people in the town, they're going to have their electricity bills are going up. Their insurance is going up. Their interest rates are going up. Okay. And it's going to be kind of tough to throw another tax increase on them. Although Oxford tax is low. It's very low compared to a lot of towns. Even when that's, our assessments aren't sky high on anybody's house. So we got a low tax in town, but it's tough to say, okay, here, if I took this 4.5% and our whole budget went up 4.5%, that would be difficult. Okay, that would be real difficult. And I like though, what you say that when you did the budget, we had a big savings in here. And it's only in government budgets that you can have an increase and have a big savings. Reminds me of my wife. She says she doesn't go shopping anymore. She's saving money. But every day I could see FedEx, Prime and UPS coming in the driveway. So, you know, it's things like that. So anyway, I like, you had a good presentation, really. I like it. We learn a lot. And now we'll get down to the numbers and we'll be meeting up at our place. Probably last year we did it 3 or 4 times to get the final budget. It was tough and you didn't have any capital, that much capital in here. Okay, and you had 250,000, you had, I think, just 300,000 in capital last year. So that factors into the budget too, the capital. So we were supposed to get, this finance board was supposed to receive $1 million of the ARPA funds, but somehow it got taken away from us. So we didn't have that. I was going to put the some of the costs that you had in your capital budget against ARPA, but that's lost. So if the committee ARPA does a lot of that for you, that's fine. Otherwise, we've got to pick it up in your budget and it's going to get costly.
You good? Motion to adjourn at 8:12.
State tax winners.
All right, meeting done. Thank you.
California, New York.
That's